Holly Holm coming out looking, I've got to say, probably her second best performance in the UFC. Looked just phenomenal against Irene Aldana, who a lot of people had winning this fight, and she just tore her up. Like it was a beatdown. As I don't know what bullied Irene Aldana, but she gets none of the prize money because Holm definitely wins that bully beatdown, and that's a joke for people that probably aren't watching this. So with that in mind, where does she go from here? Dare I say it? Does she get another? I can't believe I'm about to utter these words. Sorry, it gives me a second. All right. Does Holly Holm get another title shot? Matt, let's start with you. Does Holly Holm get another title shot?
The name Holly Holm is synonymous with title shots when it comes to the UFC. So of course she's going to get another title shot because she is the title shot gatekeeper, right? Like if she's not fighting for the title, you have to go through her to get your shot at the title. And if you don't go through her, guess what? That means she's getting another shot at the title. So that was what happened this past weekend. Irene Aldana was right on that doorstep trying to get to Amanda Nunes, and Holly Holm was like, I want another crack at it. So here we are again. Holly Holm gets a win, a dominating win, proving that she is without a doubt the second best at 135 when it comes to her and Amanda Nunes. So yes, we're going to see that. We're going to see that fight again. And luckily for her, she can claim, so to speak, that, hey, I got caught. It was the first round. You know, you can build it up. You can make it interesting. She can build off this dominating 5-round performance. Say, look, I messed up against Amanda Nunes. It'll be a little bit different this next time. And we'll see her get her 26th title shot or whatever. Yeah, I lost count at this point. But yes, she's going to get another title shot. So congratulations to Holly Holm.
I mean, those are very good points. It's hard for me to disagree. Drake, do you think she'll get a title shot? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how much does that upset you?
It's really funny, actually, because before going into the fight and everything, I was like, man, like, even if she wins, there's no, you cannot do this. You cannot do this again. Nobody wants to see that. Like, come on, man. We've seen it so many times already. But I mean, and I was really against it, right? So like after that performance, so I'm like, I wouldn't be super mad at it. Like that was the best performance of, not just, the UFC, her UFC career, but her whole MMA career, I think. And you could argue from an overall standpoint, like from, every skill set that was shown in that fight, that could be her best overall performance. Of course, it seemed probably impossible to top, the Ronda win. But I mean, as a complete showing, I mean, geez, that was incredible what she was doing there. But also very frustrating to watch when you're analyzing Irene Aldana. I mean, for me, that performance from her and Randa Marcos against Mackenzie Dern, probably the most two frustrating things I've seen in MMA all year. Probably could be forgetting something, but those are obviously fresh in my mind. So at this point, I still don't want to see the Nunes rematch, right? So I would be like a 4 on the anger scale, or whatever it is, should she get it next? No, I don't think you should give it to her next. I make her win one more fight at least. And of course, there's only one fight to really make, and that's the rematch against the person who won before she did in the Iron Lady, Germaine de Randamie, who beat her the first time to become the featherweight champion.
Yeah, I like that you brought that up because that was going to be my point as well. Is she looked phenomenal. Holm looked amazing against Aldana. We all have to acknowledge that. There's no doubt. But Nunes is going to be sidelined for a bit. She just had her baby. Congrats to both Nunes and Nina Ansaroff. That's great. Take some well-earned time off after beating everyone in the division, both featherweight and bantamweight. Go ahead. And she's supposedly going to fight Megan Anderson too. That's the other. Is that confirmed yet? I think it's. If it's not confirmed, it's pretty much confirmed.
UFC hasn't announced, but they are supposed to soon. We'll see.
Yeah. So that's almost surely going to be the fight. So in the meantime, there was another bantamweight who went out there and just killed it, got her first submission win in her career, and that is the Iron Lady, Germaine. God, I know you guys are going to kill me for this. Germaine de Randamie. GDR. I'm just gonna call
There
it
we go.
GDR.
There we go.
And so, yeah, she got a amazing submission win over Pena. She's been looking phenomenal outside of the Nunes fight, where even then she didn't get finished, which is better than a lot of Nunes' opponents, recently. So is that the fight to make? I mean, is it GDR versus Holm? And we know how Drake feels about it. Matt, what do you think?
It's one of those fights where, I don't mind if we get it, but I also understand why most of the MMA community would not want to see that rematch, considering all the controversy that surrounded the first one. It left a little bit of a sour taste in everybody's mouth. And some people, and I don't understand why, they just don't like Germaine, I guess, because of that. Like, I am the biggest Germaine de Randamie mark that there is. I will openly admit that. Some people, like I said in the chat last night, some people will easily admit that they're Diaz brothers marks or whatever have you, or Masvidal marks. No, that's me when it comes to GDR. And that is the only fighter I will ever admit that to. So if anybody wants to hop on, the GDR bandwagon, I am the conductor driving the train. So let's go. Yeah, you know what? Listen, I don't mind if they do the rematch, honestly, because I thought the first fight was actually really competitive, and I thought it was fun to watch outside of the, the after the bell strikes, so to speak. But, And
Drake, before I get your thoughts on it, if you're watching, make sure to like and subscribe. If you haven't already done that, come on. Come on now. Let's get it together. And secondly, if you want to hop aboard the GDR train, let me get a choo-choo in the comments.
Yes.
For Mr. Matthew Wells. I know he'll love it.
Train emojis everywhere. Let's see.
Train emojis all day. All day. With that in mind, Drake, your thoughts on this match?
Yeah, no, man, I think it's got to be the one to make, because you got to think about the time. Let's assume that Amanda versus Megan does happen, right? So what, that would be December. You could make GDR and Holm. You could put it on the same card even. I mean, that might be a little bit sooner than, what would be preferred and everything. But either way, I think make it 5 rounds again, make this a main event. Why not, man? I think that honestly, the rematch would be better than the first fight. And I did enjoy the first fight as well. Of course, there was the controversies and everything. I had GDR winning. I know that people, were kind of split on that at the time, and you shouldn't have counted the strikes that were after the bell anyways. And I still think that she won despite those. But yeah, they were fighting for, really a weird thing, which was the first, featherweight title. This time they're trying to get back rematches with, the champion who beat them. I think, and they've both improved since then. I would say GDR more so. And as we saw on, Saturday, pulling off a guillotine like that, pretty impressive for her. So yeah, I think that and then, how Holly performed too, of course. Styles make fights, though. It would not look the same as that Aldana one. GDR's already been in there once with her before. She beat her already. Yeah, I just think it's the right move. Why not make that one in the meantime? Because I think that Nunes is probably going to want at least a little bit of time to, chill out, with the family and everything after this fight, assuming that it still does happen with Megan. Then they can sort things out in the meantime, because these are the top two, right? I wouldn't say it's one or the other between GDR and Holly. And I mean, in terms of the UFC rankings, which they don't matter anyway, but let's bring them into consideration. GDR is still, up there. And of course, she did fight Nunes more recently than Holly did. But yeah, it seems like the fight to make. It would be a good main event. I think they could sell that pretty well if they really wanted to. I mean, obviously not like sell it for money, in terms of pay-per-view, but in terms of hype and all that stuff. So yeah, I think it's just fine. I'm all for it. I want to see it again. I think it would be better than the first fight.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. I think both of them have improved since the last fight out. I think actually, let me ask you this. First, I want to get who each of you think wins that fight, but then also I want to know that if it's done at 135, does that change anything at all? Because obviously the last time they fought, it was 145, inaugural belt, as you mentioned. I don't know that Holly looked slower necessarily, but that's not really either of their, normal weight class, so to speak. So does that change the game at all? And this time around, especially with what we've seen on the improved skill set side for both of them, who wins? Matt, let's start with you.
So your first point, I think, from my personal weight cutting grudges, go ahead and do it at 145. You mean, why not? Let's save some struggle, right? From the new skill set thing, though, that's the interesting part, because we saw Holly put together her wrestling in a very, very efficient manner than we've ever seen her before. She was chaining everything together really well. And what we saw from Germaine was, hey, I'm going to snatch your neck up. So if Holly goes in there, tries to dip in for a double leg or something and leaves her neck exposed a little bit, then things could get really interesting. But what we also saw from Holly last night was a lot of ground control too. And that was something that Germaine struggles with, especially with that Nunes fight. Does she have the same top pressure as Nunes? I don't think so. But that would make it for a very interesting dynamic that we didn't get to see the first time around. But in terms of who I would favor to win the rematch, I'm going to go with Germaine. I told you guys at the top of the video, I'm a Germaine de Randamie mark. So that's my answer.
Yeah, that's not surprising at all to me. I'm not shocked. and you brought up a great point about Holly's wrestling. I mean, if you look at Aldana, throughout her entire UFC career, she had only been taken down twice in the UFC career. Before that fight, she was taken down 5 times by Holly last night. I mean, it was, she's clearly gotten better at the ground game. There's no doubt about that. Drake, what do you think? You think GDR takes it? You think it should be at 145? Or if it's not at 145, it's at 135. Does it even make a difference? What do you think?
So I don't think it makes much of a difference, but yeah, do it at 135 this time, just because, that's their division. That's where it should have happened in the first place. They never should have fought for the featherweight title. I mean, you could have one of them fight for it back then, but they shouldn't have fought against each other for it in the first place. That's a whole different topic. We don't need to go down the featherweight road. That's no fun. But yeah, this time have it at 135 because they're 135 top contenders. As for the matchup, I just think that styles make fights, man. And yes, Holly, it was really impressive how she was chaining her wrestling into her game. But the thing was that, Aldana was following the whole way, the whole time. Germaine's not going to do that. It's not going to be as easy for Holly to, do that same thing that she did to Aldana. And then if she, when she comes in to attack with her combinations and whatnot, she's going to be eating counters of plenty. That right hand of Germaine's is a goddamn cannon, man. We saw it wobbled, Pena multiple times last night. And then, of course, she's dropped and put people away with it before. It is a lethal weapon. So, and Holly has felt that too already. So she will know. And I don't think she will be as aggressive or, with Germaine in a second time, especially after fighting her once already. It just doesn't seem like a very wise choice considering, the skill set that Germaine presents to her. And even if it does go to the ground, I just want to touch on Germaine's improved grappling defense overall too. Is like, you look at the Nunes fight. Well, let's look at both of their fights that they've had since they fought each other. I think that it's fair to say that GDR has been consistently more impressive. Yes, they've both lost, but their losses, I think Holmes were worse, right? I think it was, I know the Nunes one, and then Cyborg maybe was the other one. Of course, no shame in losing to those fighters, but pretty clear losses. And then de Randamie, yes, hers was very clear to Amanda too. But every time it was on the feet, she was winning that fight, which shouldn't have been a surprise to anybody who knows who GDR is and her skill set. Hurt Nunes bad in the second round. And then on the ground, she was actually, you remember, she was throwing up like armbar attempts and, not too many, but it was like, oh, wow, she's actually threatening a little bit. Nothing was too close, but that was something to keep note. And I mean, against a lesser, jiu-jitsu player like Holly compared to Nunes, that could be dangerous. Of course, it seems like there are more opportunities for Germaine to threaten in every area of her game now, as we've seen, especially last night against somebody who is, I think it's probably fair to say, a better wrestler, and historically Pena is, than Holmes. So, I mean, I think that everybody, going back to what we said in the other clip, MMA fans have such short-term memory that they kind of forgot about GDR in a matter of an hour. They forgot about what she did in a matter of an hour. So Holly was the hot thing. I saw a poll Brett Okamoto put out, and it was 70-30 who would win in the rematch in favor of Holly. And it was like, you guys are not thinking about this, really. You're just like, all right, that was the freshest thing we just saw. It should have at least been a lot closer. If you're going to pick Holly, it should have been like, at least 55-45, something like that, in my opinion. And I'm really curious to see if Germaine is the betting favorite once again. Because remember, she was favored in the first time around, which I was surprised by that. But I guess people were looking at all the the losses she was coming off to, which was fair. And after this 2-fight winning streak, the first winning streak she's been on since she was champion, incredible to say that. She'll probably be favored this time around, but I still think Germaine has the edge, man. Already has the win over her, and she's just gotten better since.
Yeah, I really hope, looking at this fight, I think it'll be more competitive. I think it'll be different than last time, but and Holly has improved. There's no doubt about that, especially with the ground game and the wrestling and all of that. But that being said, I think Germaine has, as you mentioned, gone up against more dangerous wrestlers, done more with it. I think she'll be ready to stuff anything Holly has for her in that regard. I would still favor Germaine, and unless Holly's able to put together some crazy game plan or just come out and find a way to neutralize Germaine's kickboxing by getting her to the ground somehow. I think that's probably, if it's straight stand-up match, I'm going to favor GDR. So I could only hope that the MMA fans make GDR the underdog so that I can make money on this, ideally by a wide margin. That's my hope there, because that is the one good thing about the short memories that you mentioned. So I guess we'll see what happens. Again, drop some comments below who you think will win. If you think 135 or 145 matters. If you want to get aboard the GDR train, you better add some emojis and some choo-choo, because maybe if we get enough people, I for one think I can speak for our editor by saying we may get a GDR train fan club going. So if you want to be part of that special newsletter, we'll see what happens there.
Yes.
But yeah, no, make sure to like, subscribe, all of that again, and let us know. Let us know who you think is going to win.